Hello guys and welcome back to the garage once again and another job on the Renault Clio. In this video I'm going to show you how I fitted Apple CarPlay to this 20+ year old car and how we did it on a budget as well. So if you want to find out, stick around and watch the rest of the video. Now, one of the main reasons for doing this is the majority of vehicles nowadays come with some sort of screen, and the majority of them have Apple CarPlay, so you can connect your phone directly to it, and it makes, whenever you go anywhere, you've got if you listen to podcasts, audio books, various other streaming music services online, it makes it nice and easy. Just phone connects to the car screen, you've got all of your stuff there. And also the other big thing is the navigation, not having to try and have a mount in the car to mount your phone somewhere and then plug it in. And the other one is taking phone calls, gives you full hands-free through the car. So that with this car being, ideally you want to go on some road trips, that sort of thing with it, I thought, what would be great? Having a Apple CarPlay screen of some sort fixed into the car, so we can just have our phone connected to it and then set off on the journey. So in this car currently, the radio CD player head unit is an old school Alpine unit with a fold out screen from 15 years ago. But we need to get rid of that, and I think want to go back to what the car had originally and try and incorporate that somehow. So first job was to get a standard head unit ordered up, which I got that from eBay. So we've got that. So we need to take the, it's not the original, but the Alpine head unit needs to come out. Second thing was how, obviously going back to an original CD player head unit, we won't have any sort of Apple CarPlay because it's 20+ year old. So I took to the internet and I found this. So this was off Amazon, and it's all it does, an Apple CarPlay screen basically, or Android Auto. So this is a 7-inch screen. Picked it up for the measly amount, I suppose, of £33, I think it was, on offer. There's a little bit of money off it, but just over £30 for, what is it, 1080p 7-inch Apple CarPlay screen. Comes with a suction mount. Now, you could just mount this to the window, but in true fashion of the channel, we'll want to go a bit further than just mounting it to the window. So I'll take you through what we did to get this mounted in the car and how it looks once it's all finished. Right guys, so this is obviously the screen, and where can we put it where it's going to look pretty good? So I've been having a bit think about it, and down here was one potential option, which would probably look not too bad, but then it's all the way down here if you're driving, and if you're in, the gear stick's going to be in the way a bit to, to press the buttons and stuff, and if navigation's on, it's going to be difficult to kind of keep looking down there. So I think up here, that would be kind of ideal, just set back a little bit from there. Now, again, you could mount this on the window and it would look all right, but we like making work for ourselves, so we're going to figure out a way to mount it in this little cubby hole in the top of the dashboard. And then I just think it's off the window. It looks, it's going to look a bit cleaner that it's not got a suction cup stuck to the window. Like I say, it's probably making way more work than what I should do, but we like doing these things just for the sake of doing them, to be honest. And we might learn something along the way. But anyhow, so the plan is to make something that's going to allow to go into here, that it will allow the suction cup to go onto, and I might actually at some point try and get not a suction mount, but I think this will just at least something to go in there. It's got a flat surface, so we can attach whatever to it is the plan. So we need to figure out how to make something to go in there that'll allow it to mount that to it. So that is the next step. So I did have a few ideas on how to basically mount that suction cup into the top part of the dash. Now this is the little rubber thing that goes in the top half of the dash. So I took it out and kind of looked at the profile of it and thought, gosh, that's quite a difficult shape. Now, I did think about, should I use fiberglass or something like that and mould it? And I thought, that's just going to be messy, awkward. And I thought, what have I got at my disposal? And I thought, oh, well, I've got a 3D printer, but I am obviously no expert with drawing things, and especially if you can see the profile of that, it is quite a odd shape. And anyway, I thought, well, I'll give it a bash and see how we get on. So thought first try and figure out the profile of this bit. So I took some rough measurements off it and basically tried to draw it in Fusion 360. So this was the first one, printed it, and it wasn't right. So did another one, had a go, still wasn't quite right. And a third go, still wasn't quite right. But we're getting closer every time. And then fourth go, we were pretty much, I thought, as close as we're going to get to it. Now, once I had the profile right, I could expand on that. And this is what I ended up with. Now, there is two holes, obviously, that these two locate into. So I thought, well, use them, put some bolts down through to hold this solid. There's also another hole, which I thought we could use that for the cable. So this was the finished article. Now, I did realise when I came and put it in, thought, right, get it in, and then thought, kind of started putting the suction cup on top. Thought, well, I'm not going to be able to get the cable down through there because the suction cup will sit over it. So I've done a bit of a modification and drilled a hole sideways. So basically, I'll get the suction cup, I'll get the screen. So you get this with the screen, and this obviously is to anything that's not got a smooth surface, you would stick this on first, just so the suction cup bites to it better. So the plan is to stick that on something along them lines, and then the suction cup will go onto there, and then we can get our wiring out the side of the screen, round here, through there, and then it'll come out the bottom of there and go down into the dash. So it'll keep the wiring nice and tidy. So yeah, I probably could have had another go at reprinting this with a sideways hole in it, which I might still do at some point, but this took 5 hours to print, and the time it took to do all them profiles, print them, come and check it, modify the design, print it again, come and check it. I thought, I know this fits and fits well, my holes all line up. So, and we might tidy that up a little bit more, hopefully. But you won't really be able to see it. But the top and bottom of the matter is the cable can go down through there and disappear into the dash without having to kind of lie across the dash or anything like that. So I think the only thing I want to do is try and I need to find some rubber to just put around this for when it's sat in that top part of the dash. I don't want it to kind of damage the, obviously we've restored all the plastics nice, so I don't want to damage the surface finish, and this is quite hard, so I think if it was sat, vibrations possibly cause it to chafe a bit. So I'm going to try and get some thin rubber, some thin felt, something like that, just to put around it. So when I bolt it in, it shouldn't damage anything in between it. So that's the next step. Right, I've found some felt to go onto here, and obviously we've got a little bolt in, so I've test fitted that, that's fine. The problem we've got now is you can't get to where the underside of where these bolts are going to go. So we're taking the top of the dash out just to do this. So in this car, we need to remove the two side plastics, they pop out. There's 2 screws in each end of the dash. Take this cover off here, 3 screws here. There's another little cover on this side. There's 1 screw behind that. take the cover off around the steering wheel. There's 2 screws behind there, and then there is 1, 2, 3 in the little air vent in the back of the dash. And it was moving, and then there's 2 clips behind here, so just pop that little trim tool in, pop that there and there, and it feels pretty loose there now. So I think we're about, oh god, that's gonna get stuck in there. I think we're about ready to lift this out now. Oh, should also say I did disconnect the battery before clotting on with this, because there is an airbag behind here. So always disconnect the battery, give it 10 minutes or so before you start doing anything like this. No, I'm gonna go that way, boys. Right, so that is the little mountain block thing mounted in there. This just gives you a nice flat surface. I've got my felt on, so that's all. Look, underneath, that's where the 2 bolts are, and then that other hole in the middle there is where we're going to poke the wires through. Right, so I'll get the wires routed through next, and then we'll go from there. Right, so a little hack here. I've got 2 cables to put through. Now, one is obviously the power, which that should connect to ignition, live, and an earth. And the other one that I might not need is the audio one. Now, I'll explain later why we might or might not need that. But basically, I've had to cut the other 2 ends off, and then I've used a cable tie, poked up through the bottom, fished it through here, and then basically tape the 2 cables to there, and then we shall use a bit of pulling and pushing to get that pulled through. Right, so that is the 2 cables in, and obviously coming out and down there. So, right, we need to get the dash back in the car now. Yeah, right. I think it went sort of that way around, didn't it? Something maybe a bit like that. Right, now I do need to figure out where I'm gonna have room for these cables to go. Now I'm hoping they'll kind of just go around that side and come out through the back of the radio. That would be the easiest route. Yeah, they're definitely not. That's definitely not nipped. I think it's just kind of that angle that I'm pulling it at. I don't really want to mess about with them too much, but yeah, that's fine. That's right back in place. So I'll button the rest of it up, and then we'll come back to it. Right, well, this is what we are currently looking at. So that's it mounted. I have got some reservations about the actual mount and how good quality that is in terms of for wobbling and vibrating and things, but I'll tidy the wiring up a little bit on the back of there, but you can kind of get the general gist of that. But yeah, I think that looks pretty pretty good. Looks pretty good like that anyway. Right, so we need to sort out the wiring now. So I've got my two cables here, but we're only going to need the power one at the minute. So this one's just put in for a later date if we need it, which again I'll explain once we get it powered up and we'll actually have a look at it. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna test the wiring on the back of the radio. I've got a earth down in the bottom here anyway that was left over from the Alpine install. So there's a bit of cable down in the bottom of there which is attached directly to an earth on the chassis. So I'll use that. So just need an ignition live, which should be one in this plug here for the radio. So I'll need to test the wiring, which one it is, and then do a nice neat solder connection into that wire. But I'll get on with that now. Right, just sorting the wiring. I've opted for, I forgot I had some of these. I don't know how well you can see them, but basically a butt connector that you heat up, and as it heats up, the solder, there's a bit of solder inside there. Solder melts and solders are joined together and heat shrinks it at the same time. They are quite good, if I remember rightly from what I've used in the past. So I've got one on the ignition live. So I've connected in the live cable for here into the ignition live on the back of the radio, and then obviously I've got my earth one down here, which I'll tuck that wiring back under there when I'm done. So basically with these, you do need a little blowtorch. Just set obviously on fairly low, and like I say, if you obviously try and keep it out of the way of the other wires, but you just keep it going until you see the solder melt. I think it's just because the wire's a bit thicker. It took a little bit longer to go, but it does look like the solder's gone into it. But the proof will be in the pudding. And yeah, I think that's the live in the earth. There's nothing else to reconnect to get them powers now. So I'll switch that on. The screen should come on. Cool. Seems to be working fine. And it's because I have actually tested it before. That's connected straight to the Apple CarPlay on my phone. I don't know if you can see that there from not, but it went straight on. So yeah, happy days, that's working. Right, I'll get the wiring tidied up in here, the radio refitted, all of outer panels refitted, and then we'll come back and have a little look at what is actually on the screen and what you can all see and what it looks like from this position.
One YouTube strategy we use at Think Media.
So I'm not sure if this will actually, how this is always going to work, because I'm recording on my phone and it's coming through the radio. But anyway, that's it. Ignition on. And that is all working there. I've just got a podcast playing through there. But what I'll do is I'll just knock the volume down on there. So obviously you can see there it's all working absolutely fine. You go back to home, that's the kind of screen you get. I'll zoom in a bit. So that's the screen you get when you first switch it on. Obviously CarPlay is working totally wirelessly, because I'm obviously recording, the same phone that's recording this is connected to the CarPlay. So how it's getting to the speakers in the car is through the it's got a built-in transmitter, so that's obviously set to basically play through frequency 108, and then obviously the radio is tuned into frequency 108. Now obviously that's what the other cable's for, is for a proper audio link from there to the radio, but this radio hasn't got just an auxiliary in. Now there is a couple of ways of making that work. Now with this type of radio, You could get a CD auto changer as an option, so that is a connector on the back for that, but it's not as straightforward as a normal audio out will go straight into it. You have to do, from what I've read online, there's a little bit of jiggery pokery that sometimes sort of works, or you can buy a little box that connects in that basically is meant to trick the radio into thinking. But they're struggling for stock in a lot of places with them now, and they're 50 quid just for this, you know, I think your little box that tricks that into thinking it's got a CD changer plugged into it. Now, the way the audio was sounding there actually isn't, you know, I'll go back onto the CarPlay, and just, I think I just turned it down, didn't I? So
I hope you have clarity.
It doesn't sound terrible
tactical strategy
by any means, I'll say that. But what I will do is we'll use it like this for the time being, and see what it's like. Because I mean, with it being a radio transmitter in that screen sending a radio signal out there, when you start driving and things, it might get, you know, there might be some issues. But as that sounds at the minute from the testing I've done just sitting here, the sound quality is all right. Because in all honesty, these radios and the standard kit in these cars is pretty rubbish anyway. So I think we'll just give it a go and see, you know, see what it's like. After I've done a few sort of test runs in it, but I thought I'll put the cable in anyway. So the cable's that's the audio one there. So it's just tucked behind the dash at the minute. So if I ever want to do anything more with that, I don't need to kind of take the dash to bits to run another cable in. So, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. Like I say, proof will be in the pudding when we take it on an actual test ride. But yeah, but that's basically it. I mean, from what I've seen of this so far, there's, you know, it works no problem at all. I did also, just to let you know, I did make a phone call on it. Again, I wasn't driving, but because there is a little built-in mic here, so I made a phone call through the Apple CarPlay, and I spoke to my wife, and she said she could hear us fine. Like I say, it might be slightly different when you're on the road, and you've got road noise and things like that, but I think for, you know, don't really make that many phone calls on the road, to be honest, so I think that'll be fine. And as long as the sound quality coming through with this car speakers is acceptable, I think we're all right with that. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that looks. So zoom out a bit. Obviously, that's kind of what you're looking at from a driving perspective. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that's gone. Right, guys. Well, that brings us to the end of another video and another little job done on the Clio. I'm actually quite happy with how that looks and how it's kind of worked out, but the proof will be in using it over a bit of time. So I think what I'll probably do is I'll probably come back to this screen and do a bit of a review once I've obviously used it on the road. I'll talk a bit more about how that touchscreen, whether it's any good or not, or longevity, if there's any issues with connectivity, obviously because it's wireless Apple CarPlay. So I'll come back and talk about them. But other than that, I think we're all done with this video. If you've liked this video and you think it was a worthwhile watch, please like it. And if you like what we do here on the channel, subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.